What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the Alto again, and this time on Zoom we got Siamese. Thank you all so much for being here. It is great to have you both here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you both here. This new album, Elements, is absolutely awesome. Every song really stands out on its own and really has like its own unique elements from collaborations with 1056 and Resolve to having certain element songs such as On Fire or God Is a Woman, Utopia, you name it. Was there sort of a vision you had going into the making of this album? Was there a goal or an idea you were trying to achieve, or was it very much like improvisational and very experimental?
Um, People keep asking us if if it's like a conceptual album. And to answer your question very easily, everything just kind of happens by almost. Our last album was kind of where we found our little pocket, I think. And this album is just next natural step for us to move. And yeah, it's just a bit more heavy, a bit more technical, a bit more experimental. Um, yeah, but it was just start writing new material, and then we kind of found out what things to do more of, and yeah.
Because what you guys have been on a creative spree from releasing Shameless in 2018 to Superhuman in 2019 to Home in 2021. This has been a very long gap between albums, I would say. So, was there a specific reason behind that?
Yeah, something started happening with the band. I think the real pickup came at the home and Corona, and since then we've been touring a lot. And we've been just busy. At the same time, we're all at the age where life is happening as well. Some life-changing experiences also came into play. A lot of us have kids now, so that's just the natural and normal reasoning behind that. But I would say definitely touring. I think we were on like 6 or 7 tours, maybe even 8 between 21 and 24. So we've been keeping busy, and obviously that will also hamper some of the creative process. While back in the day with Shameless and with Siamese and with even Superhuman, we had all the time on our hands. Even with Home, that's when we had a lot of time on our hands. So that would be the excuse, I guess.
I
Yeah.
think we used to write albums in the way that like, okay, we'll just write 10 or 12 songs, and when they were finished, like okay, that's the album, I guess. And with Home, it was like 2 years of just keep writing material because we had like a vision, and we just put so much more time and energy into the songs, and that fortunately paid off. That we spent a lot more time on that album than we used to.
Um, would you feel that Home was almost like a transitional album in a way for Siamese? Like it almost like because I think it's fair to say, and I think this goes for every album, but like had it not been for the last album, you wouldn't know what to do with this album. But it almost seems like Home was a real turning point for your artistic process and how much touring you did in between then and now. It almost seemed like it was really like a staple time period for Siamese.
For sure, and it was also maybe the final testament of the songwriting. Like, okay, this is the development of the previous work, leading up to this certain point of the album campaigns. Like Andreas got even better with his guitar, even better with his production. The melodies got even better. The lyrics might even also gotten a notch up. Everything was just kind of meeting, and as you like, we found ourselves within Home and with Elements. We kind of used the good parts, the really strong parts of Home, and just develop that part and try to do it better. And even now playing a lot of those songs live, also kind of added to the development. We're saying like, okay, these songs that have almost no streams, they work really well live. So maybe we should take some of the elements of that and try to make really good songs, but with these heavy parts. And we kind of, we use feedback. We're not blind or deaf to the feedback that we can see and hear when we talk to people or people listen to.
Um, well, is that what the meaning? Because I rarely ask what the name of the record, like what the meaning of the record name is. But is it fair to say elements? Elements. It's like you mentioned the term elements a lot, and pun intended or not intended. But like there are so many elements that are on this album. I mean, going from Vertigo to Predator alone, there's like a lot to experience there. So like, is that what the meaning of this album is? There's just many different elements.
Okay. Okay. I mean, we don't know, and everybody has their interpretation. But I actually think the main reason was, and we talked about a little bit about this, is we mentioned the elements a lot on the song titles and the lyrics. So it got this kind of natural vibe of mentioning those stuff.
Yeah, because we wrote The Shape of Water as the first song, and that was like a year before we finished anything else for the album. And then it ended up like having, On Fire, Shape of Water, Hurricane. But okay, that's kind of a theme here. And that's like, let's just call it elements. But I think it's a full interpretation that you have. Like, there's so many different kind of genres and worlds that kind of make their way into sound. So we'll keep saying that from now on.
Just so you know, we're gonna steal that.
Please steal it for all you know. But hey, all in all, it almost sounds like that this album could also be like a science project homework in a way. You had to analyze all the elements. You should have just taken an element from the periodic table. This song is called rubidium. This song is called lithium. This song is called neon. Like you should just, yeah. So, but I didn't realize it was that literal.
Sometimes we just tone it down. This is just so easy and it makes sense, and so why not use it?
But having so many elements, and I'm going to keep making that pun throughout this whole interview, but like having so many different elements within your sound, does that call for a new songwriting approach every single time? Does writing a very heavy and very brutal song feel very differently, or feel like a completely different process versus writing, like a more poppy song or a more slower, softer, more ballad-induced song?
We're used to writing the more popular songs, and it's pretty new for us we kind of went back to the heavier sounds. So we kind of had to learn again, like to write the unclean vocals, I guess you call it, and all that. But I think we've always had our own doing the heavy parts and poppy parts. I don't know, it's just kind of what feels natural and feels good for us. I think every band and every artist and every songwriter, they have their own set of ears, and just kind of happens. I don't know. Sometimes it's intentional. You have to kind of map out.
I have this idea that we're kind of boxing two albums at a time in the same kind of vibe, if I can say so. So, like, I would say Shameless and Superhuman were these R&B infused albums that kind of did the same, but I would say in Superhuman we did it a little bit better. And then we had Home and Elements, who are also very much in family with each other. And it's up to the public to decide which one is best, but it's kind of born of the same idea. And I guess, and this is a guess, but when we write the next stuff, it will probably change quite a lot, even though we found a pocket, but we might be exploring something else, because when doing these songs together, me and Andreas have always done these songs together. It's a very close system so far. And it's just like, we get bored easily. So, and we can almost immediately go like, but we already did this. We already did that. And then if you run into that wall, that's the most terrible wall you can hit as a songwriter, where you just feel like you're repeating yourself. And I think, at least for us, it's very important. Try not to repeat yourself too much within a couple of years.
But here is the other thing too, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, but you obviously don't want to be repetitive and whatnot, but there are some bands, like you take a lot of death metal bands, they don't need to go outside the box. Cannibal Corpse is always going to put out a great death metal album regardless of who's in the band, where they are in their lives. It's fucking death metal. AC/DC never needed to change up their formula with Bon Scott or Brian Johnson. Now, do you feel like that there is just as much of a wall where you have so many different elements that it's almost kind of hard to develop your own identity in a way?
Nothing against the people you just mentioned. I think me and Andreas, first and foremost, at least, I can speak for him as well. I think we are first and foremost creative people. So the creativity of whatever we're doing with whatever parameter it's on, that's gonna be the most important part. If we're not having fun, if we don't really trust the process, it's not gonna work for us. And if then there is a wall for that, then there is a wall for that. And we might disappoint people, but I think with the things we're doing, and the hard work we're putting in, hot travels, leaving family, and just investing so much money and time into it, at least what we can do is make it feel good when we create something. And so you will never see us create the same album. That's a fact.
I'm gonna sound like a total dick, but do you think having fun all the time is also detrimental? Look, I'm an artist myself, and there's plenty of times where I'm just hating life when I have, that paintbrush in my hands because of, for whatever reason, I'm having a bad day. I'm kind of forcing myself to just practice just to get that in there. Like, do you feel like the creative process is also not meant to be fun all the time, and that is almost good for it?
I think I went through like 2 writer's blocks during the writing of this album, and usually me personally, I get a couple of writer's blocks like for a month or 2 months or even 3 months sometimes, where for the life of me I couldn't write something good, and the ideas they just arrive when they want to. It's like when you're in the grocery store, or what if we mix this genre with take this production trick and put it into a rock context. It's really hard to be creative on command, as most people know. Like, okay, we have 2 weeks to finish one song or an album. People agree on. Sometimes it's really hard to structure and plan the process, because it's kind of like they're just like floating around in the air. Sometimes you catch, like your radar kind of catches the right ideas. And that's why it also takes us 2 years to write 10 songs that we feel confident about.
Yeah.
And we used to, we wrote 5 albums, just as I mentioned before. Now we have like 12 sketches. That's the album.
And
we're more picky now.
And I would say, just to add to that, it is truly dreadful being creative, because it's just like love. Like, first time you fall in love, it's just like the first song's great. If you remember it like it was the shit, but it's probably pretty. It didn't really matter. It wasn't really good. At least our songs weren't really that good. And as we keep going, you go into this grown-up creativity, where you're creative as a grown-up. You understand that, yes, you have to play, but you also have to adult in a creative relationship. And so, yeah, it becomes hard work all of a sudden. And that's not something you would put down on creativity, hard work. But it damn is. It's just as hard as looking at an Excel sheet, trying to fill in all the blanks. It's the same kind of process you go through sometimes with creativity, because you have to be creative for a livelihood. So you have to be creative every fucking day. So it does become dreadful, but the payout now as a grown-up creative is way bigger than when I was younger.
Yeah.
So and not just payout of money, but just the payout in people's reactions, and just feeling that, okay, we've grown as artists, we've grown as creative people. And that's something you can take with you for the whole of your life. So when you're old, you will go, I created these songs, I did this creativity, and it holds such a high place in my life to be creative that I will be forever proud. Yeah. So it makes sense.
And being able to create on demand too, I think is also like, some people say that that's soulless. Oh, you just create when you're told to, or you only create on demand. I don't think that that's soulless at all. You take graphic designers, you take music producers. I mean, music producers are getting stuff thrown at them left and right of many different genres, and they can't just be like, oh, I don't feel creative, so I'm not going to work today and get paid. Like, I think the ability to create on demand or continuously create, that is a separate talent in and of itself.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm talking, but it's like, yes, there are a few creative geniuses who can just create one thing while they spend one day at it and it felt like and create one thing that blows up and goes worldwide. But there has to be an acceptance of us creatives also being day-to-day workers that need to create every day, and that's what we are. And no disrespect to both of us, but I don't think we're geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to work hard, even if we're creative. There is this story about a creative person not having to work hard because he just comes up with stuff and then it blows up and gets rich, or she gets rich. But it's not our reality. We have to work hard, and Andreas wrote 104 songs for home to boil it down, you know. So it's definitely not as easy as it looks.
I think that kind of answers your question. Is it fun all the time? If you write over 100 sketches to end up with 10 songs on an album, that's also what you were speaking about. Whenever you feel creative, sometimes it's craftsmanship, and sometimes it's persistence, and sometimes it's also like leaving the work alone to get some fresh ears. It's really hard to figure out after I've been doing this for a living for 10 years. I'm still trying to figure out. I think most people are like, when do I need to take a break, and when do I need to like write 40 themes before I find the right one? It's really hard to figure out, but it's just trial and error.
Yeah. Are you ever worried that the songs you leave out are going to be a B-side one day, just be the biggest hit you guys ever had?
I think that happens to a lot of bands in the past. Like, we were actually talking about that a couple of times, where it's almost not up to you what's good, like what you write. It's up to the audience. And sometimes you think, oh, we wrote this in 10 minutes, it's fucking shit. But then that's what people like. So it's really hard to tell sometimes.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is going back to all the different elements. I'm not escaping that pun throughout this whole interview, but because like I feel like the future of music is very genreless. I don't like comparing bands, like saying, oh, you guys sound exactly like this, but when I do, like for marketing purposes, I would definitely recommend you guys to people who are listening to Bad Omens or Spirit Box, Dance Gavin Dance, like a lot of these bands that have like a lot of heavy breakdowns incorporated in it, but also have a lot of poppier elements in it that are very serenading at the same time. I think it's fair to say the future is becoming more and more genreless. And
I would say this, as I also work behind the scenes a lot and talk a lot with people in the industry, and this is by far, since maybe the 80s, this is the most exciting time to be an artist. It comes in all genres and whatever. This is the most exciting time we have because people are just migrating into each other. It doesn't matter what you've done before. If you know someone and you've done something good and you do good music, you can see it in Bring Me the Horizon, you can see it in Architects, you can everywhere in our genre as well. And our genre is growing. We're getting more and more people, better ticket sales. Everything is getting bigger. It's forecasted by in 10 years, it will be the biggest it's ever been. So I think the one of the sad things might be the identity might be washed out. So like heavy metal fans will no longer just be the regular heavy metal fans. It could be whoever, which is a nice thing, but it also will dissolve the community, I think, which will suck maybe. Maybe that's just my stance on it. But it will be so big. It will be so big that it's just gonna make a lot of people happy.
See, like I think the whole identity thing in music, I think is actually a hindrance on metal. I think like look, put it this way: Bring Me the Horizon played Barclays Center in New York City. That's the size of Madison Square Garden. That's like a stadium. Who would have thought that a band like that, and we all know what they first sounded like. Like, they were playing with Suicide Silence back in the day. Like, who would have thought that a band like that would be playing stadiums? And you go to the shows, you see people who look like, you know, suburban soccer moms who drive an SUV to their kids to soccer practice. And then you see people who look like they were burning down churches in Norway at the same, like, place. Like,
that's my point.
Exactly. Yeah, like, I think the people absorbing the genre are becoming just as diverse as the genre in itself.
I think that's a very, very good point. And I think we should all be very, very excited about it. And that's why we also, from little Denmark, we can just feel something happening now, which means I have to say, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but never in our lives have we thought we could bring Siamese to the level that it's at already. And it just seems like it's going to grow, and damn, we're thankful.
Yeah, and Denmark has been on a roll lately. I mean, Cabal killing it at Summer Slaughter this year, fantastic band. Ghost Iris has been killing it as well. They're a great band. There's so many more bands. They're just a few I could. Who?
Vola?
Oh yeah, of course. Vola is incredible. They put on an incredible live show. That is something you don't experience elsewhere. So I think like with many different genres, many different styles, Denmark in itself, and it's a small country, but like it just seems like it's an incredible time to just be a metalhead.
We're getting there for sure, man.
So before we go, I want to thank you both so much for your time, and most of all, thank you for always giving us kick-ass music. Just with the release of Elements, what else could we be expecting for Siamese in the future? If you're allowed to say at this time, of course, please tell me that a U.S. tour is somewhere in the works.
For sure. First of all, I want to thank you for this interview. We do a lot of interviews, and it's very nice to go so in depth with the creative process. So we appreciate that.
Of course.
But yeah, we're coming to the US in October. We're playing with a band called Rain City Drive. You probably know those guys. Until I Wake, Belmont, and Nightlife. It's going to be a kill of a tour. It's happening in October, and then we do like the usual stuff: headline tour in Europe, probably some summer festivals, but we recently just acquired a 3-year visa for the US work visa.
Yeah.
So we're kind of trying to see, because we've done a lot of touring in Europe, we're trying to kind of see, okay, what's going on over in the US. So we hope to see you guys a lot.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Siamese. Be sure to check out Elements. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Yes.